Hello and welcome to week 6. I am Jacqueline Stockwell, CEO and founder at Leadership Through Data. I inspire, motivate, and educate information leaders across the world to focus on their messaging through storytelling and visual aids. Over the next 12 months, my goal is to deliver an information management accelerant program called Empower. Now, I am the author of Blooming Good Information Management, which is an international best-selling book, and it's insanely good. So I'd highly recommend you have a read of it. Now, today's session, I am talking about public speaking. Now, it's one of my most favorite topics. I'm very passionate about it. For several reasons, I feel like we shouldn't steal time from people. If people turn up and they want to listen to something that we're delivering, we should do a really good job in that. But sometimes it can be a challenge because we're not sure where to start or how to perfect or have those, fine tune areas, or even just making that massive jump and just having a go at public speaking. So they're the things that I'm going to be talking about today. But I just kind of want to have a recap for those new listeners that have joined me today. Week 3 of the Bold Move Challenge was all about storytelling and how to make your messages land and actually be remembered. Now, I'm talking about this right now is because when we public speak, we need to tell stories. We need to get that emotional impact. Whether you're talking about something technical or whether you're talking at a wedding speech or whether you're talking about information management, records management, you can wrap stories around these. And week 3 of the Big Bold Challenge, so you'll find it on my LinkedIn page, is around storytelling. So capture that after we've done today's session. Now, week 4, I talked about your visibility, and I talked a lot about this. I was very, very excited to be at Expert Live last week, actually, and I'm still recovering from it because it was just the most amazing experience to be in a technical environment with lots of amazing, truly amazing people. And I was talking about how to have your elevator pitch. So we were talking about who you are, what you do, and what you want to achieve, and that's about your visibility. And that's what you need to do to introduce yourself when you're doing public speaking. So step on over there if you've missed it and recap on that session. Now, last week I talked about communication styles and time management, and now we're talking about public speaking. So I'm super excited. Pop in the chat so I know you're there with me about if you've done any public speaking or if you've got anything coming up. So I know a couple of people that I'm working with in my coaching capacity for public speaking have got some really cool things coming up over the next couple of weeks. So here's the truth when we talk about public speaking. You can have the best ideas, the strongest experience, the most valuable talking points, but you just can't communicate them. And a lot of people in my industry, so that's information management, records management, data protection, and also technical, and I'm going to start bringing that in after the things that I've learned from last week, but we just don't know how to communicate them. We have it in our heads that, oh, we understand this, but because we understand this, we think everyone else does, and that's not correct, and we need to be communicating better, because sometimes our communication in public speaking or in business cases or in webinars, we just don't land what we want, what we're trying to achieve, and therefore we then don't influence and we don't create change, and people switch off. They're not interested in what you're saying and they won't learn. So therefore it is a waste of their time. So this is all about delivering public speaking with impact. And before we talk about the rest of today's session, I want to do a true be bold, be brave, and be beautiful, Jackie's ethos in how you show up. So being bold is choosing to show up and use your voice. So use that voice in the chat for me so I know I'm not alone today. And be brave is to be honest about where your speaking is holding you back, saying, yeah, I want to be a public speaker. I've done some public speaking. What tips and stuff can I achieve from today's session to make them better? And being beautiful, so being intentional with your presence, with your words, and with your energy. And energy is so important when it comes to public speaking. Because if I rocked up every week and I was like, "Hi, I'm Jackie Stockwell, and I'm CEO and founder at Leadership Through Data," you'd just be turned off in seconds. So energy is a really, really important thing. So by the end of today's hour, we'll see how long we go for. I do schedule an hour. Sometimes it's slightly shorter. You'll be able to understand public speaking better. You will have a practical way to plan, prepare, and deliver your next meeting, training session, webinar, or even conference talk with more confidence, clarity, and more impact. Because, my lovely listeners, speaking is not just something we do on stages. We have to do it every single day. We have to introduce ourselves every single day, and we should be introducing ourselves. And we're talking at meetings and speaking at meetings. Speaking is what happens every time we try to get buy-in. It's explaining the risk, it's selling a business case, it's leading a team, it's changing a decision, and it's training users or making information management or technology matter in the cases of our organizations. So today I want you to stop and think and start thinking. I want you to stop thinking that you are not a speaker and start thinking about where are you ready to speak and how can you make that more powerful, because whether you are presenting to 300 people, 1,000 people, 10 people, 2 people at a conference, or trying to explain retention labels to 5 people in a project meeting, you are still communicating, you are still influencing, and you are still showing that leadership. So they're really, really important messages. And this is what I love about my job, because everything that I've been talking about for the last, this is week 6 today of my lives, it all kind of links together. It gives us that really good soft skill set that we need to succeed in women in technology, in information management, to actually hold that presence and influence. So I see a lot of amazing, amazing people, brilliant people doing incredible things with huge value. And they have amazing titles. So when I've attended conferences before or webinars, I'm very, very excited about the title. So the title will always draw me in, and I think, oh yeah, what are those things that they're going to talk about? So I'm like, yes. And then all of a sudden, you get to that session, they start to speak and they shrink, and then they're overthinking, or they're rushing, or they're apologizing because they've done the slides the night before, or there's too many slides, they're out of order, or behind the scenes, they're doing something, something that they shouldn't be doing. They're not showing that influence, they're not showing up to what they've been asked to do. And most of the time, I can tell a good public speaking session within 30 seconds of it starting, whether you're going to hold my attention or not. My ADHD tends to tune me out, but actually, is 30 seconds within a presentation, I'll know if it will be good or not. And sometimes I actually leave because I just don't want my time wasted. Or I feel so sorry for the person presenting that I think I just can't sit and watch this. You are capable of doing amazing things. You just need to know the structure of how to do it and give it the conference and the delivery issue. Because if people cannot hear your value, they can't connect with it. They cannot act on what you're trying to say, and they cannot be influenced by it. And now, influencing is a huge thing when it comes for information management or technology. We need to influence, and I'm going to help you change that today. So I want to take you back to my story. So I'm sitting in this dark, damp records library, wondering what to do. And I'm thinking, do I want to be a robot or not? Because, yeah, I had a great, cushy job, good pension, good retirement, and I loved what I did. But being authentic and making a difference in the world really, really mattered to me. So I'm sitting in this dark, damp, smelly records library, wondering what to do. And then it hit me. I didn't want to be a robot anymore. I wanted to really deliver differences in information management, data protection training. I wanted to deliver training that people enjoyed, people had practical takeaways and really learned something rather than a tick box exercise or say, here's the textbook, read it, now good luck. Or waiting for the next coffee break at 9:30 a.m. I do remember doing that an awful lot. And watching people in the room switching off, zoning out, thinking, oh God, here we go again. And that's when it hit me. And that's when I knew it was the problem isn't the content, it's how it's delivered. And that's super important. And that was the moment that changed everything. Because public speaking is not only just about presenting, it's about making people feel. It's making people think and act differently. So, when you start with your public speaking, you really want to think about some key things. What do you want to achieve at them? Do you want to sell them a product? Do you want to inspire? Do you want them to motivate them? Do you want to influence? What do you want to achieve from your audience? Also, need to know who your audience is so you can tailor that message. And this is why I care so much about the topic because I've sat in so many different sessions, so webinars, where it's death by PowerPoint, conferences where the presenters actually thought about the content but not about the delivery and read from the slides, and it's just painfully awful, and it was just delivered so unwell. And I've watched people with incredible knowledge lose the room because they hide behind text heavy slides, or I've seen information professionals with gold in their hands presenting it, but presenting it was like a shopping list. And I'd say that with love because I've been there too. I had one presentation, nerves took over. I started to overthink. My brain was racing. What if I forget this word? Oh my God, I can't do this. Um, and kind of fluff that presentation, but learning from mistakes. And that's why I want to share my learning with you and my strategies. And that's what I'm doing because speaking is a skill. It's not a personality type. You can learn it, you can practice it, and you can build it. So when I talk about the dark, damp records library, I really want you to picture it, not just as a records library, but as a concept. I mean, that cold, slightly musty smell, the shelves, the quietness, that feeling of being tucked away from the energy of the organization. And then I remember thinking about those ideas, and I have passion. I've given more and more to this as time's gone on because the way information management and data protection training and privacy training and even technical training is being communicated feels flat, feels technical, it feels dry, it feels disconnected from people's real lives. Now, my spark was the moment that I realized that I actually cared about um, you guys, and I want to make that difference. And we want to make that human connection so we can actually tell our organizations, the rest of the world, how important information management is and the technical space as well, so people can really start to influence and we can start to drive that influence. So I want to bring you back. So where you are currently sitting in your own method, in your own records library, I want you to have a think about it. Think about it, put it in the chat. Where are you hiding? What are you doing brilliantly but not communicating it in the way that makes people learn? And that's what we're going to unpick. So, public speaking, I just want to be really clear. It's not about reading slides. It's not about sounding clever. It's not about using complicating language. It's not about quoting your CV. Public speaking is about communicating your message clearly, energetically, and effectively. And more importantly, it's about that connection with your audience, because people often don't remember the content of what you're delivering. They remember how you feel, how they felt when they come to that. Now, if you start strong and end strong and you have some wobbles in the middle, people will remember the start and the end, but they'll remember that feeling. They'll remember that excitement. They'll remember that, belief that you gave them, or that inspiration, or that product you were trying to sell, whatever you were trying to do. If you connected that emotionally, they will remember that. And I want to be honest, most people in my industry, we are not jumping out of bed going, I cannot wait to talk about retention schedules today. They are not making a cup of tea thinking, ooh, I hope someone explains metadata to me before lunch. End users aren't thinking about that. Stakeholders aren't thinking about that. So it's our job to translate it into something that they feels relevant, practical, useful, and that they understand, and they've got that emotional shift with it. And this is where speaking and public speaking will come in. So when we speak, we need to stop trying to prove that we know everything. We need to start helping the audience understand the one thing that they need. So this is a completely kind of different energy, and one, it's about performance pressure. So the other is about service. So when you speak about service, you settle. You stop making it about, do they like me? And start asking, how can I help them? So one thing I want you to jot down is, before every talk, meeting, or presentation, I want you to ask yourself 3 questions. What do I want them to know? Question 1. What do I want them to know? Second, what do I want them to feel? Okay, what do I want them to feel? And what do I want them to do? What do I want them to do? Okay. And if you only ask the first question, which is, what do I want them to know, you probably are going to create an information dump and not think about it. If you answer all 3, you create a message that moves people. So it's not a task list, it's not full of jargon, it's not full of policies. They connect with the meaning, the purpose, and the emotion, and that's what we need to get them to do. So tell me in the chat, where do you speak most? Is that meetings? Is that presentations? Is that events? Because wherever that is, that's your stage. That's your time to shine. That's your opportunity to influence and get that emotional connection. So in my book, I talk about the 5 P's of public speaking. The first one is planning. The second is preparation. The third is practice. The fourth is personal. And the fifth is performance. So let's talk about what planning would be. And this is where you start to build your talk. Key thing that people always miss is, what's the one key message that you want to get out of it? What do you want your audience to leave with? If you don't know this, your audience won't need either. So what's the one key thing? From my experience, planning is where most people go wrong, because they open up PowerPoint first. And certainly with somebody with ADHD and dyslexia, if I hit PowerPoint first, I will absolutely get distracted with pictures and content, and then I'll just lose all sight of what my actual objective is. So please, please, my lovely people, do not start with slides. Slides are not the talk. Slides are a support act for you. And my high recommendations start with post-it notes, a notebook, a mind map, your office wall, whatever works for your brain, start there. And map it out. So most of the time I'm throwing up post-it notes. I use 3 different colors. One will be for content, one will be for storytelling, and one will be for audience engagement. And I'll throw them all up on the wall, all in different colors, and I'll just get really excited and really enthusiastic and boom, 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 boom. There we go. And then I'll start to refine it. So I'll start to move things that aren't really needed and aren't the outcome that I'm seeking. And then from there, I will frame like a flowchart of the slides that I want. I do like drawing, so I'll put it on a piece of paper, or you can use a whiteboard, whatever works for you. And then map it out. So I'll normally put a square box with a slide name and then kind of move it across, audience interaction, where I'm going to throw it out. Not only planning this way will also help you with your time management, because you'll know if you've got too much content or not enough content, or where you move things around. Now, you do need to have a really good understanding of when you are planning, if you're happy with that. Once you're happy with your talk, then you can start to think about your preparation. Now, this is your story, this is your structure, and this is your flow. Because without preparation, you will default to information overload, as I said, and you'll just throw too much at it. And this is where the content and speakers make that mistake. They chuck too much into it. And there's a big difference between writing something that looks good on a page and writing something you can actually say out loud. So if you find yourself tripping over something, it's probably not the way your style is. So one of the key things that I would always suggest is, if you've seen good public speakers and good presentations, don't copy their style. Just take nits and little pieces and be your own authentic self, because your voice is important. Your voice is what matters. And at the end of the day, you are the one delivering that presentation. So you need to be confident. And when you talk about stories that you know, and have your knowledge, it'll give you a better body language, it'll give you better presence. And they're the things that will make it stand out, make it human. And that's the things that will make the audience sitting across from the table from you feel like a proper conversation, not being read at for articles, recitals, the law, or a policy document. I do get that it's hard for us to leave stuff out. We want to absolutely give everything, but that can be our worst thing, because the more information doesn't mean that there's extra value. Sometimes it will confuse the messaging, and the job is not to empty your brain into the audience. Your job is to guide them through what matters most. What is the outcome that you are seeking? Inspire, motivate, educate, sell a product. Those are the things. And think of those 3 questions that I said to you just earlier. Now, practice is the 3rd P in my 5 Ps. Now, I see a lot of people saying that they can wing it. Great if you can wing it, but do a really good job. I've not actually seen many people wing it and do an exceptionally good job. But sometimes when you go to public speaking, and I'm talking about public speaking, is that the audience doesn't actually know what you were supposed to say, because they're there listening to you. So if you feel like you can wing it, that's your choice. However, I would not recommend it. I would recommend practicing. So once you've done your throw up on the wall, taken your content out, framed it, put it into a PowerPoint presentation, kind of then is the only time that I would suggest you start putting it in there. If you get distracted with pretty pictures or something else, you can go back to that nice diagram that you've created and think, that's my next slide. That's where I need to go, and keep your core messaging. So what's the one outcome or the one key takeaway message that you want? Now, when it comes to practice, it's really, really important that you practice to make perfect, but you don't want to sound over robotic. Key ways is to record yourself. Now, when I ask you to record yourself, it's not looking at what you look like or how many pounds the camera adds to you. It's mere a question of tone, pace, execution. And what I mean by that, your voice execution. Do you have the right pauses? Are you talking too quickly? Those are the key things. Practice out loud, practice with friends, family, practice with energy, enthusiasm, and stand up. Because at the end of the day, standing up gives you a much more different energy than it does to sitting down. And think about it, you're just performing, it's not a delivery, it's a performance. Practice is where your confidence is built in the content. It's not fake confidence. It's not, look at me, I'm amazing confidence. It's real confidence. The kind that comes from knowing that you've done the work and are pleased with that work, and it's your work, and it's your what's the word? It's your confidence. It's you as your authentic self. And you are the one that says, yes, yes, we know that, and this is what I've done. Practice out loud. As I said, use your hands. I'm quite a handy person. People say to me, "Is that a good thing in public speaking?" And I'm just like, "Be your authentic self." When it comes to having your hands, you need to make sure that they're underneath your belly button. So anything above this area is fine. Up to your belly button, you can use hand gestures, but don't start bending over because you'll start to lose attention. When you do record yourself, think about how many ums or ums or so's every 3 seconds. So think about that, or use so. I use so, but it's about clearing and concise, crafting your presentation. So the personal is number 4 in this session, in my framework. It's about your confidence. It's about your energy. It's about your presence. It's about what you're going to wear. I say be confident and comfortable in what you're going to wear on stage. Visualize your audience. Find out what the space of the room is and visualize your audience laughing at your jokes if you put jokes in. Or think about, visualize how they're all sitting. Are they smiley faces? Like, use that, what you're looking like, what your presence is, what your performance is going to be. And the personal part matters because you're the one that brings that energy before you bring the words. Your body language will say a whole lot more before you've even started talking. So think about what you are wearing that makes you feel confident and comfortable. I normally listen to music before I get on stage or do one of these sessions. I get myself into a nice, good mindset. Do you need to move your body before you speak? Sometimes I can get the audience to get up and get moving, helps with my nerves, but it also puts them in the right position to learn. Do you need a moment of silence? Silence is a really good thing in public speaking. You can just stop talking. And then someone will always break that silence. And so that's a really powerful thing. So you could start your presentation with silence. Things that I find really helpful is if you're in a actual physical room, talk to the people before the session gets started. You'll actually find, ask them what their goals are, and I relate them back, those goals back throughout the session. I think, well, that's what you wanted to speak, but it also helps settle some nerves as well. I have learned that I need to feel grounded and comfortable. I don't want to wear shoes that I'm going to fall over in. I want to wear clothes that make me feel powerful, but still like me. And it was really nice last week. Somebody says, "Oh, I love your outfits. You're always quite powerful." And I think that's what I want. I want powerful outfits that aren't too powerful, that would overpower other people, but make me feel confident and comfortable. because I don't want to be uncomfortable, because if I'm uncomfortable, part of my brain is worrying about that instead of actually serving the audience. And I don't want to steal people's time. So, fifth P is performance. This result is everything. You think about actors, you think about movies, everybody performs, and you need to perform. If the performance feels hard, the problem is earlier in the process. Your performance is not perfection, but let me say this again. If you've been practicing and you've worked on your time, your content, your pace, your performance should be easy, and you're using an authentic story, your performance will come naturally. If you stumble, it can still be powerful. If you forget a line, you can still be impactful. You just need to pause, breathe, smile, and carry on. Because the best speakers are not robots. They are present, they are responsive, and they are connected to their audience. And don't highlight where you've got an issue. If your slides are out of wrong, just be a true professional and just carry on with it. As I said, people don't know what you are trying to say because they don't know the content. It's only you. So don't highlight if something goes wrong. Handle it with honesty and humor if you can, and the audience will trust you more and more. Okay, now I want you to write down one speaking moment you have come up with. It could be a team meeting, a project update, a training session, a board paper you need to talk through, or a conference slot. Next to it, you want to write the 5 Ps. So that's planning, preparation, practice, personal, and performance. Which one are you currently skipping? Now I'm going to put that in the chat. Which one are you currently skipping? Which of the 5 Ps? There's got to be one of them that you're currently missing, right? Okay, now I'm just going to bring you back to storytelling, and this makes your presentation unforgettable. Tell stories. I was talking to a friend expert live last week, and they said to me that they can't tell stories because of it's technical. And I said, well, of course you can. You can tell a story through a technical component. So I shared the story where I worked with a customer who they had wanted to talk about insider risk management in Microsoft 365. So we built a story, a person's story, disgruntled member of staff. We explained that story. We then did the technological parts of it. We went back to the story and then the technology parts and then the story and then the technology parts. So we created this whole thing of storytelling with technical details that really connected to the audience emotion. And it also made them understand how it works. It wasn't just a piece of tech, it was actually working in real life because stories create emotional responses, they build trust, and they improve retention. So every character, as I've spoken about before, every story needs a character. They need a conflict, a spark, a change, and that one key takeaway message. Remember the story of Sarah that I've spoken about previously. She was brilliant, she was capable and experienced. She was asked to speak and got worried and didn't prepare properly. She relied on slides, and within minutes, she'd lost the room, lost her flow, and lost her confidence. And then something changed. She had to learn about the 5 Ps, the structure, storytelling, and her performance. But next time, she connected, she engaged, and she inspired. Same person, different approach. And Sarah's story really matters because it's so common what I see in the industry. So Sarah wasn't bad at her job. She was not lacking knowledge. She was not lacking capabilities. She simply had not been taught how to turn knowledge into a message that shifts and influences. So we need to stop assuming brilliant technical people automatically know how to present things brilliantly. We don't always know, but we can always learn. And when we do, everything changes. Now, in my book, I talk about public speaking and sharks because I absolutely love sharks. But the reason why I've put it in is because public speaking can really, there's some statistics to say that people would prefer to die than do public speaking, and sharks are quite afraid of the ocean. So I kind of want to bring those two together. Now, when you think about public speaking, you can feel like standing on the edge of the sea and seeing a fin, and it's da da, and hopefully, absolutely nothing happens, but you're not going to get in. But most of the time, the thing that we fear is bigger in our heads than it actually is in reality, and that's the point. So the great white shark reminds me of the presence. So you stand in your space and you own it. So influence, they own that space in the deep blue sea. The hammerhead shark reminds me of clarity and focus. So you know what you are trying to say. The mako reminds me to be precise. So do not ramble around the ocean for 20 minutes before make that point. Make that point, know that outcome, have one key takeaway. The nursing shark reminds me to stay calm and under pressure. So remember those breathing exercises and getting yourself into a good zone, and think about like not having coffee an hour before or dairy before you talk. Go to the toilet, getting yourself into that zone to stay calm. And there's some really good grounding exercises in my book. Then think about the whale shark, the gentle giant that reminds us to connect with our audience. And that's what we need to do to make a good job. To speak with impact, we need presence, clarity, precision, calm, and connection. Pop in the chat. Do you use stories to speak? I'm really interested to know. There's a really real mix when I ask that question, because sometimes people do, and sometimes people just don't know where to start. So as I said, the 5-tier framework, the storytelling, pop back to one of my LinkedIn lives and it will tell you more about it. So lastly, I just want to talk about nerves, because it can be quite nervous, but there are some really good techniques. Everybody feels them. I feel them, but nerves can turn to energy. It's like anxiety, you can turn to oxygen if you just do some good breathing techniques. And I actually think the nerves are a sign that you care. You want to do a good job, because if you didn't care at all, you probably wouldn't be worried. But we have to have we have to connect that to our energy. Otherwise, it runs the show. So if our nerves take over, if we get sort of the sweat on, we feel sick, that will just be the end of your public speaking and your opportunity to influence. So you need to get hold of those. So before a session, avoid things that make your voice or body work harder. Drink more water, move around, smile. So interesting when we say words and we use a smile, it has such a different impact. You say, hi, good morning, or good morning. Same words, smile, different tone. Speak to somebody before you go live or walk on stage. Your voice is a muscle and energy needs to go somewhere. So think about all those things. Talk to people in the audience. Talk to the people that have been, if it's a big public speaking, who have been organizing the event. Get that vocal cord going. Before you speak, I've got some good techniques. Breathe in and hold your breath for 3 and breathe out. And do that multiple times. That will change your energy level as well. Moving your body is an absolutely essential thing. I love getting people to move their body, because you get a different impact when we're moving our bodies. Don't let panic rise. If panic arrives and you feel sick, easiest thing to do is to stand up. Everyone laughs at me when I say this, but squeeze your butt cheeks and your upper thighs. That will actually stop you feeling sick. Squeeze your butt cheeks and upper thighs when you're standing. Really important thing is public speaking, everyone's facing your front. They're not going to know what you're doing behind you, but it really does work. A really good technique. I've also used it on some rides. So some big rides that make me feel sick. I'm also use it in the car for traveling. So it really does work when you feel that overwhelming urge to be sick. So squeeze your butt cheeks and your upper thighs. So to finish up, I really want you to think about when you do your public speaking, your visual slides. So use pictures, people process, imageries a whole lot quicker, and there's some research and statistics around there than they do by text. Pictures help us with memory recall. So use visual imageries. Make sure you've got copyright correct on your slides if you're using other people's work. Imageries are the best things. Now, I use my slides as crutches, so to get me through the content. So I'll have multiple slides of pictures, but each slide is probably about a 10-second something that I want to say, and I'll use them. And because I practice, I'll know what slide comes next because the picture's in my brain, and that is how my brain works. But I would highly recommend you using imagery because at the end of the day, you don't want people reading when you're there talking to them, right? You've lost your opportunity then. If you've got stuff to give it out as handouts, send it to them before or afterwards, but use that opportunity to shine with imageries, content, and talking to them and sharing that story of yours. So to finish your skill set, think about your vocals, your verbs, your visuals will attach to your body language, your vocals, think about how quick you speak. Do you want to speak really quickly? Think about your pace, pause, and think about your energy, because if you put energy behind your words, they will sound very, very different. So I want you to think about changing one. You've popped it in the chat about the things that you're missing, those 5 Ps. Focus on changing one of those. Make it practical. So visualize yourself doing your public speaking, visualize your posture, your face, your hands, your energy, and whether you're opened or closed. Don't do closed body language. But if you're talking about a story, your body language will become natural. So when you talk about your vocals, pace, volume's a really good thing because you need people to hear you. Tone, pauses, and emphasize points. If you want to drop something that you want to land with people so they think about it, emphasize it and pause and stop and wait. So verbal, using the actual words. So many people obsess over the verb and ignore the visual and the vocal, but the audience, it takes all 3 to get a really good session. If your words say, I am not confident, but your body is folded in and your voice disappears at the end of every sentence, lost opportunity. Your audience receives that and they're just going to be checked out. So think about this. Take one sentence you often say at work, something like, we need to improve how we manage information. Say it flat. Now with conviction, now say it. Now slow it down and emphasize need and manage. So we need to improve how we manage information. And there's a real difference. It feels different. So try that. So say we need to improve how we manage information with less emphasis and really try and get a different impact. And that's the delivery that I am talking about with you today. So here's the big leadership piece. This is bigger than you because when this happens in your organization, people stay quiet, ideas don't get shared, and your value and influence gets hidden. And it keeps you in this stuck mode. So rather than the proactive, it's the reactive. So you need to speak with confidence. You need to model it. You need to normalize it. You need to create permission so you can say, this is me. and introduce yourself well with influence as well. So when you talk about public speaking, introduce yourself, that elevator pitch that I keep talking about, that 60 seconds, who you are, what you do, and what you want to achieve. Okay, I want you to start thinking, just the last thing in the chat, what speaking moment are you stepping into this week? So you're not what you're not avoiding, and what you're stepping into. Think about how we can change that mindset after the things we've talked about today. I want you to be specific. Um, Not that I shouldn't speak up anymore, that is too vague. I want on Tuesday, in my project management meeting, I'm going to make one clear point about why we need a proper retention decision. Or something like in a team update, I'm going to tell one short story to explain why metadata matters. Specific creates action, vague creates avoidance. I hope today's session has been useful for you. If something has landed, I took more and more about this on the Empower workshop, the Empower Accelerator. I'd love you to join me where I can actually help you tailor your messaging, your elevator pitch of all the things that I've been talking about, including our Microsoft 365 and records management training. If you want to join that, please head over to the Leadership Through Data website and go to the Empower Accelerator program. If you want to test it out, we've got Empower 21, which is our 21-day sprint. You can test it out for free and you can still do some work with me. Also, other things I want you to think about is your scorecard. Have you completed the Leadership Through Data Empower scorecard, which will give you a really nice rounded view of all the chapters that are included in my book. It's a free report and it will give you a really nice, tidy report of where you need to start and where you need to go to next, because your voice matters and you really need to think about these things. If you're looking for an influence scorecard, you can head over to the www.jackiespeaks.com and complete the scorecard on there. And that is solely around your influence. And it's talking about it's a report and it will give you, I always forget the words that come out of it at the end of it, but it will give you a really nice red and green rag rated system, what you're doing well and what you need to improve on for your influence score. It's been absolutely sensational today. I hope you've enjoyed today's session. I want you to carry on being bold, being brave, and being beautiful, and go and use your voice. Go and influence, go and public speak, and just be the awesomeness that you are. Thank you so much for your time. See you next week. Bye.